Let's wait for more of our friends to join us before we begin. All right. Let's take a look at some grammar questions first. Question 1. It's been livelier around the house since we adopted a puppy. Dash it. So over here, we're interested in a question 10. The keyword is here. It's. So we need to ask ourselves, what does this stand for? So there are two meanings. Either it is or it has. Okay? So with that in mind, we need to ask ourselves which of the... We look at the options. There isn't a isn't it or is it. As such, it needs to be it has. And since it's been lively, that means it has been livelier. So it's a positive connotation at the start. At the end, it should be a negative connotation. Therefore, it will be hasn't it, number 3. Now, when we look at this question, even if there is isn't it and a is it, we will still choose has. Because has been, it is in the present perfect tense. Which means that my action is completed, but the effect is still felt. And the effect is the house being livelier. Not a really difficult question here. Moving on, let's take a look at question 2. If you dash the instruction manual closely, it would not have taken you that long to assemble the cabinet. So we are looking at tenses here. First thing, would not have or would have. This is used to talk about something that is as you look back to the past. Okay, so we are looking at an event that occurred previously. Now, looking at the options, we will immediately eliminate number 1 because this is present tense. Followed is in past tense. Had followed, past perfect tense. And were following is past continuous tense. Then we will ask ourselves, so which one do we look at? Which one do we choose? Now you can see, apart from would not, the other keyword is here. Have taken. So this is already in the present perfect tense. Which means that my action is completed. So if we draw a timeline, the assembling of the chair would have already occurred. And therefore, the need to follow instructions must happen first before I could assemble the chair. As such, you can see that this is my second action in the past, while assembling the chair itself is my first action in the past. So definitely it will not be followed, because follow is just looking at the first action, past tense. But you can see we are in the participle tense. So we are looking at option 3 and 4. For option 4, past continuous, it means that the action was ongoing sometime in the past. And if we look at our timeline, that's not possible. If sometime in the past, it means that it could be at the same time as you assemble the chair. But no, it doesn't work that way. The following of instruction needs to happen first, sequentially, followed by my assembling of chair. It's two distinct activities. As such, we'll use past perfect tense because it shows one action occurred before second action took place. Alright, so our answer is number 3. Alright, moving on, let's take a look at question 3. Playing board games dash Hakimi's favorite pastime ever since he received his first one as a gift. So we're interested in tenses here. And we observe that there is this word here, ever since. So we are looking at a completed action and the effect is still felt because it's here. The effect is shown here. Become the favorite pastime. So, okay, as such, we'll be delving straight into the present perfect tense, which is number 3, has been. If you observe, playing board games here is also singular. As such, have been and are will immediately be out because they are used for plural subjects. Now, it can be is. It is possible that is can be used, but because of this term here, ever since, it shows that particular time period. So it is not a habit and it's not a fact of the matter. That's why we cannot use is. Okay, but let's say there isn't the back part. Playing board games dash Hakimi's favorite pastime. You can say playing. You can just use the word is. All right. Now moving on, let's take a look at question 4. All the furniture in Anya's house dash sold last month, as she will be migrating to Canada with her family. So first thing is we look at this question and we know it's a subject-verb agreement question. Now, moving on to some keywords. Furniture. This is a collective noun, which means that I will consider it a singular subject. Next, we look at last month, so it is in the past tense. So these two criteria will tell us that the answer is number 3, was. Now, some of you will be asking, then what are the other cases where we use collective nouns? Equipment and luggage. They are two common collective nouns. So we'll always continue or take this as singular subjects. Alright, looking at question 5. Jake was confident about his essay that he completed with no difficulty. Dash, he should still check through his work before submission. So we are interested in a conjunction question here. Conjunctions are your linking words that would connect information together. So we observe the first piece of information is he completed his work with no difficulty. That means the essay must be quite easy to write, or maybe he had written the essay before, so he's confident. So when you complete with no when you complete something with no difficulty, it's assumed that you don't need to check because you are very confident already. So we show a lot of confidence. But we see that the author advised him to still check through his work. So over here, we are looking at how something else need to be done. And when people check the work, apart from being careful, sometimes they have low confidence. That's why they will need to keep looking over and over and again to make sure that they are assured. Okay, so let's stick to this idea. So because of these two, one is increased confidence, one is low confidence, there is a contrast. As such, we'll use number 4 because this is the only conjunction here that shows in spite of a fact. Which is the same as contrast. Now, looking at the rest, besides is used to show additional information, hence and therefore are used to show a cause-effect relationship. Okay, and this will be the first 5 questions of grammar. I'll just leave this on the screen for a bit for everyone to take in the information. And if you have any questions, please ask in the chat section. All right. If there are no further questions, let's continue. Question 6 here. She was still dash denial about her favorite basketball team losing the championship. So over here, we are interested in prepositions. The first thing we observe is denial. So this is a kind of feeling or emotion. Now we are looking at how this girl is experiencing this feeling after something unfortunate happened, which is the basketball team losing the match. So looking at our options, in tells me something is enclosed or surrounded. At shows location. On shows the surface of object. While with shows something is complementary. So we are looking at how this feeling has overwhelmed or engulfed the girl. And therefore, the answer would be number 1. To show that, to express this fact. The rest of the options are used in other ways. When you talk about location, mother is at the coffee shop now. on the table. The tablet is on the table. That means it's resting on this flat surface. We show something is complementary. I am going to the market with father. That means two of us are doing the same thing. Okay, let's take a look at question 7 now. Despite having studied diligently for the test, Deepika had dash confidence that she would do well the moment she saw the questions. So over here, we are interested in determiners. These are words that will show the quantity of something. We observe that the sentence starts with a contrasting word or a word that shows contrast. And there was a fact here where she studied diligently and there's a contrast, which means that, so okay, one thing at a time. When you study diligently, that means your confidence will have increased greatly. So you are probably very assured that you will do well. But at the same time, you can see that there's a word despite, which means that the actual fact is the confidence level is very low, quantity low. And over here, we talk about confidence. We are looking at something that is uncountable. As such, these two criteria will tell us our answer is she had little confidence. Now, when we talk about less and more, these two are known as the comparative form. So there needs to be at least two subjects where we are looking at some comparison. Car A costs more than car B. Much here is used for high quantity and is uncountable. He put in much effort in his homework. Okay, moving on, let's take a look at question 8. The perfume that Mr. Kim wanted, including those he had planned to get as gifts, dashed off the shelves yesterday. First thing to note, we are looking at a tenses question here. Second thing to note, we are looking at some keywords. Yesterday, which is in the past tense. Second thing to note, the perfume, singular subject. Next, including all those you want to get as gifts. Can you see the two commas? So this is extra information that we will not consider. So these two criteria will tell us the answer is number 3. Was taken. All right. Now, you observe that everything here is taken. Then you may be wondering, why is it so? Because this is just past tense. Well, taken here is in the past participle. So we are not just looking at option 1, but we are looking at all 4 options which has the word taken. Right? And this means that one action occurred before second action took place. So it's trying to express this idea. So you may be wondering, so what is this first action? The first action is here. The fact that the perfume was taken off the shelf. And what is the second action? The second action is how Mr. Kim wanted to buy. The act of him going to the shop, asking for the perfume. Alright? Therefore, we are looking at the word taken. Now let's take a look at question 9. Dash you decide to sleep in, I'll see you at the cafe for breakfast tomorrow. So over here we are interested in conjunctions. which are your linking words. Now you can see this is a particular criteria, sleeping in. And there is also an outcome, which is you see you at a cafe for breakfast. So we need a conjunction to link these two together. And when we have criteria, I'll always zoom in on this, unless. So that will be my answer. Now let's take a look at the other options to learn. If is used to show a hypothetical situation, hypothetical event. If I had $1 million, I would do something. Okay, so it's an event that hasn't occurred, but I'm just talking about it. Lest, this shows the intention to prevent something. Mother closed the main gate, lest the stray dog come into our house. So you are trying to prevent an unfortunate situation from occurring. Since, this is used to show reason. Or you also can be used to show a certain time period. Since the train broke down, I had to walk to school, showing a reason. Showing a time period. I have been going to this barber since I was young. Now let's take a look at question 10. Hani's brother beamed with pride as he watched her dash her art piece to an international crowd at the annual exhibition. So we are interested in tenses here. First thing to note, watched. So this already tells me it is in the past tense. At the same time, it is a verb. It's the first verb. And the blank here is my second verb. As such, I need to apply the verbs of perception rule. What this means is when I have two verbs, my first verb can be in any form, but my second verb needs to be in the base form. As such, no questions will be asked. I'll choose answer 1, present. Now let's take a look at the other options. Presents is present tense, but for singular subjects. Then we have presented, which is in past tense. And having presented here, it shows a completed action. For example, having presented to the teachers, I know that they are very lenient. So I'm trying to emphasize the fact that I've completed this action and I have more knowledge and experience about something. All right? I'll just leave this here for a bit for everyone to take in the information. And if you have any questions, do feel free to ask me in the comment section. All right, moving on, let's take a look at some vocabulary questions. First one. The twins were dashed by the magnificent fireworks going off above the majestic castle. So two things to note. Magnificent fireworks, so something is very beautiful, very awe-inspiring. Next, there's a majestic castle. That means the architecture marvel would have caused somebody to look at it with great admiration. So looking at the options, the first one is appalled, which means that you feel very dismayed, that means very sad or horrified or very shocked. Next, we have mortified, which means that you feel very embarrassed or ashamed. Infuriated means that you are extremely angry or impatient. While enthralled means that you have the fascinated attention of someone. That means you are very attracted to the thing. All right. So because of this, two positive elements here, where we are talking about some scenery that is very nice, we would say that the people are enthralled. That means you caught their attention to admire this aesthetic beauty. Now, moving on, let's take a look at question 12 here. We had no dash or transport to get to our nearest convenience store. After the only vehicle we had ran out of fuel. So we are looking at some kind of mode, or some kind of method, or some kind of strategy that you could go here. This is the aim, the nearest convenience store. And we are looking at this something related to transport. It's like your way of doing something. So looking at our options, the first one is route, which means a road or a course taken from start to end point. Means a method of doing something. System is a connected devices or things that operate together. While method means a way of doing something. So in this case, we are interested in a way of going from point A to point B. Okay, we're just interested in ways of doing things. Okay, may not be one way, but ways. So now we are looking at how they don't have any of the ways to do something. So when we look at from that broader point of view, multiple strategies, we will say the means. Okay, method and system here, both of them are singular, so they are referring to a specific thing, specific way of doing something. Okay, so they are very specific. And we are not interested in the specific things here. We are interested in the different methods. So plural. All right. Now moving on, let's take a look at question 13. Outside a stadium, a group of tourists got caught in a violent dash between two large groups of supporters of rival football teams. So the first thing to note is violent, which means that the kind of interaction is very aggressive. Next, we talk about how they are supporters of rival football teams, which means that they may have some bad blood against one another. Now, taking a look at options, Raid here means there's a surprise attack by enemy. Brawl means a rough, noisy fight. Debate means a serious discussion. Or you can also be referring to some kind of formal argument. While squabble is a noisy quarrel. And this is usually over something trivial. That means something that is very insignificant or small. Alright? So when you look at this kind of bad blood which runs deep, that means a long time, they're already rivals, they're already trying to outwit one another, and also how this is violent here, we would use the term brawl because it has got to do with fight. It's not so much about a quarrel. So we are not just looking at people arguing, but we are looking at people having physical contact with one another. Now, let's take a look at question 14. The thrilling yet challenging adventure camp dashed positive change in his attitude and behavior towards facing difficulties. So we are looking at how the camp caused this to happen. Right, so this is the result of the camp. So looking at our options, the first one is brought in or bring in. That means you're trying to introduce a new product or law. So you could say like the car manufacturer brought in this new product to Singapore. When you bring up or brought up something, it means that you nurture and educate somebody to maturity. So usually we'll talk about how parents will bring up their children. That means they are engaging in educational and activities that will aid the child's development. Bring around or bring about or brought about means cause something to happen. So broadly speaking, we're interested in the effect over here. While bring around or brought around means make somebody unconscious, conscious again. So in this case, the closest answer that we have is we're looking at this positive change, this result. So our answer will be number 3. Now moving on, let's take a look at question 15. After a grueling day of school and tuition classes and training, Lionel dashed into his chair and fell asleep. So the answer is, the keyword is here, grueling. That means very tiring. Now looking at our options, the first one is lurch, which means an abrupt, that means very sudden, and also an uncontrolled movement. So usually we talk about how like the malfunction cable car lurch forward, then suddenly just move forward without any anticipation, and we also don't know why. When you prance, it means that you are trying to walk in an energetic way. So we'll look at things like the monkey prancing around the forest, trying to be doing something naughty. Frolic means that you play and move in a cheerful way. So you could say that the carefree village children were frolicking in the paddy fields. Slumped. This means that you sit, or you lean, or you fall heavily on something. And actually, this is what we are looking at. When you're so tired, you just want to rest, you just rest your whole body weight on the chair and you'll just take a nap. Alright, and we are done with our vocab section here. I'll just give everyone some time to take in the information. And if you have any questions, do feel free to ask me in the chat. Alright, moving on, let's take a look at some vocab close questions. So this is how it will go. I'll read through the text with you and we'll understand the meanings of the underlined words. Once we are done, we will take a look at the options and choose the correct answer. For the current generation, Gen Z, the social media platform TikTok is becoming their search engine of choice that customizes the video results they see based on their interactions and contents. So when you look at customize here, you are looking at modifying something to suit the individual. What has drawn Gen Z to it is that real people, rather than faceless websites, are synthesizing and delivering information on the application. When you synthesize something, it means that you put together facts to form a single piece of work. So these facts here are obtained from different sources. So you are trying to compile everything together in a nice piece of work. On TikTok, you see how a customer genuinely feels about an eatery through a bite-sized clip instead of having to read lengthy reviews. So when you are genuine or genuinely, you are just being very truthful. Okay. Next, we talk about how they are looking at the review, and they talk about lengthy review. So this refers to a critical appraisal of something. Critical in a sense that you are looking at the good and bad points of it. And when you appraise something, that means you are trying to write a report and you're trying to evaluate something. So it's like your examiner during your oral exams, they are trying to appraise, or rather they're trying to look at the good and the bad points of your presentation, your oral presentation, and there they will tell you how to improve. It's that kind of idea. Okay. Now moving on, let's take a look at question 20. More young people are using TikTok not only to look for products and businesses, but also for tutorials and find explanations for things they come across. Come across here means that something that you meet by chance, or you encounter unexpectedly. Alright, so the rough meanings of the underlined words in mind, let's delve into the options. First one is customize. That means you modify something to fit the person's needs. So we have curates here, which means that you select things for a collection. Usually we talk about how the museum curates certain exhibits. That means you are trying to select the relevant exhibits that will attract people's attention. Next, when you talk about changes, you are looking at how you make something different. This different subject or object can be for many things. You change something to improve it, to make it better for other objectives as well. Next, specialize. That means you concentrate and become expert in certain area. So for example, I specialize in teaching primary and secondary English only, right? Instead of just teaching tuition for any subject. Lastly, personalize means that you design to meet individual requirements. So we are looking at how you create something to fit the particular person. Hello, who is this? Asher Roy Fu. So in this case, you can see when we modify something to fit the individual, we're actually here meeting that individual needs. So our answer will be number 4. All right, moving on. Let's take a look at question 17. When you synergize, that means you put together facts and other information together in one source. The first option here is producing. That means you make or you manufacture something from raw materials. Next, we have the word combining, which means that you join or you merge together to form a single unit. We also have shortening, which means that you it's an action or a process to make something short. So you could be referring to, for example, trying to shorten a video. Summarizing here means that you want to express the most important facts and ideas clearly. So we are not looking at a lot of ideas, very long pages. We just need the main essence of information. So in this case, we are interested in how you can provide information or we're just looking at information for these texts together in a one-stop place. So actually, we'll be looking at two things, combining and summarizing. So the idea here is you need, with this preonial. Yeah, the idea here is number 2, because when you combine, there isn't the idea that certain elements are lost. Whereas when you summarize something, there's always the idea that the unimportant elements of or idea would be disregarded or you will not include it in. They are omitted, right? Essentially. Now moving on, let's take a look at question 18. Genuinely. That means you are very truthful about something. So looking at the options here, the first one we have is actually, which means that you're trying to convey information that may surprise people. Next, when you use the word strongly, it means that you have great power or strength. Candidly, it means that you are very honest and straightforward. You don't hide the points. If something is good, you just tell the person up front. If it's bad, you just tell him that he sucks. Legitimately means in a way that conforms or follows to the rules. All right. So for this question, we're only interested in being upfront about certain facts. Being truthful. Just want to tell people whether something is good or not. Right? So the closest answer that we have would be number 3, when you're very candid. Now, let's take a look at question 19. When you review something, you're trying to appraise, that means you give feedback about certain things. Yeah, very good, Pu Yo Niao. Now, so let's take a look at the options. First one is study. When you study something, you are basically spending time and effort to acquire knowledge. Profile means that you are trying to have a description of somebody's life, work, etc. Now, critique means that you're trying to give an opinion or judgment of something. While a memoir means that we are looking at a historical account written from personal knowledge. Okay? So for this case here, we are looking at how you're trying to review something, right? And you're trying to give a critical appraisal. So actually our closest answer will be number 3. We're trying to give that kind of judgment and opinion because your thoughts are solely your own, especially with regards to subjective things like food, content and other content. Okay? Such that will be our answer. And last but not least, we have 20, which is come across. That means you encounter something by chance. All right. So looking at our options here, the first one is unearth, which means you find something in the ground by digging. Uncover means you discover something that was a secret previously. Confront means that you are face to face with someone hostile. While when you encounter something, it means that you meet something unexpectedly. That means you did not anticipate coming across or interacting with a piece of information, but somehow when you read something, maybe on TikTok, you use the app, you come into contact with it. Okay, so that's what we are looking at, number 4. When you are trying to interact with a content, may not be a face-to-face, but on the digital website, on the digital world. All right. So this will be everything that we need for our vocab close. I'll just give everyone some time to take in the information first before we move on to our next few questions. All right. All right. If there are no further questions, let's move on to our grammar close. Now, looking at this grammar close, the outback is a name used for the natives for the vast, unpopulated, mainly arid areas that comprise Australia's interior and remote coasts. The drive from Alice Spring - Ayers Rock is an absolute must-do. So you can see this is the start and this is the end. And not forgetting we have the from, it will always come, this phrase always needs to be paired up with the word to. It's the same as between, needs to go with and. Taking travels through the heart of the country. At 348 meters, the rock is the height - a 95-story building. So we are looking at how the rock is of a certain height that is very exact. So we're trying to show this relationship between the building as well as the rock. So you'll say the height of the 95-story building. Ayers Rock is just any ordinary tourist attraction. It is special to the Anagu people. So over here they say it's special already, which tells you that it's definitely not the ordinary stuff. Okay, so we will use number L, not, because of the back part here. And we refer the Anagu people here as, they refer it explicitly to the Aboriginal Australian tribe. So we'll use the word the. Oh, actually, there may be more than one of the Australian tribe. So we'll just, since it's just a singular subject, we'll just say a Aboriginal Australian tribe. But since it's it's a vowel, so you say an Aboriginal tribe. Okay? E is here. Now let's go on. Their beliefs and culture not known to many outsiders. So you can see there are two different aspects. So it's plural subject, and you can see that this whole paragraph so far is in present tense. So we'll use the word are. It is important to appreciate them. Visitors are encouraged to learn more and gain a deeper understanding of this place. You can see that it's important to appreciate. So this is a fact, and the reason and what is the effect? The cause is here. Okay, let me just change it. It's important. They tell you this is the cause. What's the effect? They are encouraged to learn more and gain a deeper understanding. This is the effect. So to show this link, we'll say, so visitors should visit them and gain understanding of the place. They are asked to walk around the rock, which is sacred to the Anagu, or climbing it. So you can see there are two things you can do. Walk or you can climb. However, you are encouraged to do the first one. So you are saying this is the first and the best option compared to number 2. So to highlight this preference, we'll use the conjunction instead. Not forgetting there is the word of here. So when you want to show this alternative, you always, and there's a word of, it needs to be instead of. There were hundreds of thousands of visitors who scaled the rock each year. So you can see, they already tell you that you need to walk around the rock instead of climbing. But the fact is, there are many people who scaled the rock, which means that they climbed. So there's a contrast between the previous paragraph, which tells you to walk around the rock, something that is highlighted in blue here, versus the thousands of visitors who scaled the rock. So we use the term nevertheless to show this contrast. Alright? And when the express wishes of its traditional owners. So you can see they do something that the traditional owner don't want them to do, right? So when we talk about in opposition to something, we will always use the preposition against to highlight this fact. Now you can see, dash, it may seem less of a mountain. The rock has reportedly claimed 37 lives in recorded history. So over here, we are looking at how the rock doesn't look like a mountain, maybe because of its height and other characteristics related to its geology, right? But you can see that when it's not a mountain, it's not very tall, it's probably not very dangerous. Many people have passed on while trying to scale the rock. So to show this shock or this expectation versus reality contrast, we will use the word although. All right. Okay, moving on, let's take a look at the editing. Okay, so in 2022, European Space Agency announced its first class of astronaut trainees in 13 years. Dash the 17 candidates, ESA has made history by selecting an amputee. Dash lost his leg in a motorcycle accident. So when we talk about 17 candidates, so when there are more than when there are two people, you will use between. When there are more than two, or sorry, three and above, we'll use among. Okay. And when we talk about amputee here, and he's the subject of the sentence, and when we want to use a pronoun, we'll use who. Okay, motorcycle accident. This is a spelling error. I believe most of you know how to spell this word. A leap towards its dash ambition to send someone with physical dash into space. So you can see pioneering is also spelled wrongly. Pioneering. Ambition to send someone with physical. Disable is a verb. So now what we are doing is we are changing this verb into a noun. So it will be disability. It's the same as able. If you are able to do something, your ability. So if something is disabled, that means cannot do, then it will be disability. Okay? So sometimes when you encounter this kind of word form change, it's good to think of certain words you have written before and try to draw that connection. Now let's take a look at question 44. John McFall, the 41-year-old brilliant who lost his right leg when he was 19 and went on to dash in the Paralympics, called his selection, Europe's answer to NASA, a real turning point and mark in history. To, the next word must always be the base form. So it will be to compete. I had never thought that being an astronaut was a... Okay, possibility here is a spelling error. Small p. Double S. This is the first time a space agency has endeavored to embark on a project like this. So this is how you spell endeavored. V-O-U-R, sorry. And you can see this sends a really strong message, dash humanity. So you can see the message here is sent to this place. So your humanity is your destination. So you will say you send a strong message to somewhere. So to humanity. Will follow a separate path from his fellow astronaut trainees because he error. When you spell separate, there's always two A's. Okay? Feasibility is spelled this way. Feasibility. And you can see whether being physically disabled, so it's only one, this is a singular thing. So you'll be impairs the space travel. So actually it's not physical disability, but this fact, being physically disabled, that means we're just looking at the act of disability or being disabled, which is a singular subject. All right. And with that, we have come to the end of this editing practice. Are there any questions? Please feel free to ask me in the chat section. Alright, if there are no further questions, let's go on to our complete close. Most people in Brazil do not drink water straight from the tap due to the poor water quality. Many of them dash to filtered and bottled water instead. So you see, the first part already tell you do not drink water straight. So that means they will need to use other sources. Therefore, this term here is a phrasal verb, and you can see that the other sources are circled. So they will turn to this to drink water. Lonely Planet, a travel guide, recommends vigorous boiling of the water, dash at least a minute. So you can see when you boil the water, they tell you how long to boil. So this is some sort of elaboration. Therefore, we will need a preposition for to link the information together. Alternative methods that the travel guide suggests, dash using a water filter or iodine pills to purify the water. So over here, we are looking at other methods here. So we will say they include, because these are just a few methods from the Lonely Planet's book of alternative methods. So you can say these are like part of this thing. And you can see you purify the water, then you drink. So purify is the first step. And the second step is drinking. So when you put them in this sequence, it will be before drinking. In the rural parts of Brazil, people often store rainwater in the water tanks. Sadly, the water in the tanks sometimes become polluted, disease-causing bacteria. So you can see the pollution is caused by certain things, this thing, the bacteria. So you'll say they are polluted with the bacteria. And those who drink water will fall, they'll be sick. You can just say fall sick. Brazil has plenty of water dash to some other countries in the world. So when you look at this, you're trying to compare the sources of water with other countries. So we'll just say compared to. It's not really a very difficult question here. Water.org reports that while safe water has become more dash over the years, there are still deep inequalities dash the rural and urban regions in acquiring it. So you can see, wow shows concurrent activities. So what are the concurrent activities? Two things. People can go and obtain this water more easily. Then you can see there's still, so there's an emphasis on something that is contrasting. So over here, the contrast or the contrasting idea is inequality. Inequality means some people don't have water, some people can have a lot of water. So this refers to being able to use, and the word that we'll be looking at is accessible. That means you can have direct usage of something. And you can see these inequalities exist where? Rural and urban regions. So we are looking at this, comparing these two places. And we also have the word between. So, the word and. As such, we need to use between rural and the urban areas. Water supply disruption is also a daily concern. Water dash occasionally due to reasons like pollution. So you can see all this pollution and climate change will mean that there is insufficient water. So we will call this water shortage, because all this will lead to insufficient water. Effects dash climate change. So we are talking about how these effects are, this is the elaboration here. What is the effect? the effects related to this climate change. There are millions who do not have access to safe water in Brazil. The underprivileged often dash on their tanks and containers to collect rainwater for their day-to-day needs. So you can see this is the source. And there's the word on here. So you need to be very careful what's the action word or the verb you use. So we will need to say they often rely on the tanks or the container to collect the rainwater. Okay, and now we have this lady who invented this system that purifies water using sunlight. So when we look at a non-human thing and we need to replace it with a pronoun, it will be that, or you can say which purifies the thing using sunlight. All right, and it's the only invention in the world that can do this disinfect rainwater collected. Okay. So it has this special ability. So we will use the word that it is capable of. As clean drinking water is a basic dash, the lady hopes to make it easier for everyone to access it. So when you talk about something is basic and you require it for survival, we just say it's a basic need. All right. All right, and with that, we have come to the end of this complete close. I'll just leave the text here for a bit, and if you have any questions, do feel free to ask me. All right, moving on. Our last part now. We'll be looking at our synthesis and transformation. Father was reading the newspapers. It was blown away by a strong gust of wind. So now we're changing the subject of the sentence. Right? Now you can see the strong gust of wind blow something away. So now the subject will be the start. So a strong gust of wind blew, and you see that it refers to the newspaper. So it blew the newspapers that father was reading. So this is just linking all your words together. Okay, it's not a very difficult, that when father was reading them. It's not a really difficult thing to do. The room was stuffy because the ventilation was poor. So this is the outcome. And what's the cause? Poor ventilation. So you need to change the sentence to owing to poor ventilation, the room was stuffy. Now look at question 68. Mark insisted on going to the playground. It was snowing heavily. So when you talk about no matter, we are looking at that condition. And the condition is here. So it will be no matter how heavily it snowed. Mark insisted on going to the playground. Alright. Now moving on. Tom is the most responsible student in class. So this is a superlative to highlight how when compared to other students, he is number one. So we will say no other student is, because no, zero people, we will use singular subject. We use the singular form. Is as responsible, is more responsible than Tom. Okay? Now, we don't use most here because there is no one to compare already. Okay? And we have two entities. The mystery student versus Tom. That's why we will use the word more here together. Lastly, let's take a look at question 70. Unfortunately, he was ill-prepared for the role of the main character. So we need to highlight this, that he's very unfortunate. That means we don't expect it to happen. So it was unfortunate that he was ill-prepared for the role of main character. Alright. And with that, we have come to the end of this synthesis and transformation practice. I'll just leave the answers here on the screen for a bit so that everyone can take in the information. And if you have any questions, do feel free to ask me. Alright, everyone. If there are no further questions, then thank you so much for joining me this afternoon on our Write Several TikTok. I'm Teacher Nathan, and if you would like to learn more P5 English with me, do join me tomorrow and next week at 10:30 a.m. where we'll be looking at P5 English papers. And if you have friends who are also taking the O levels, do encourage them to join me at 12 p.m. where we'll be looking at some O level paper 2 comprehension. If not, I'll see you guys on TikTok soon. Bye bye.